Hi, welcome to This Week in Ames. I'm Susan Guiazda. On today's show, we check in with the Ames Public Works Department. My guest today is Damien Pregitzer, traffic engineer with the City of Ames. Damien, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I know you've been a long-time city employee, but not everybody is familiar with what the traffic engineer does. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, the traffic engineer oversees traffic operations in Ames. So what that means to most people is that I help time the lights, I help with parking regulations, speed limit, so any of the signs, pavement markings, things like that, we oversee the maintenance and operation of those things.
Now, I know you're a young person, but you have a long tenured history with the City of Ames. Started when you were in college?
Right, I worked part-time, started in 1999. I worked with the traffic department, and just so happened to be like when I got to my end of my Iowa State degree, the position came open and I was lucky enough to get it.
So you've had a lot of different experience in different aspects of the city, but always related to traffic.
Right? Yeah, it's always been the traffic department and public works, so it's been really neat to kind of see from the ground up, if I can put it that way. When you work with the maintenance guys, you get to see all the streets, all the installation, and then now, in my position, you get to also hear kind of the reasoning and the administration and all the kind of the reasons why we do things out on the street.
So as somebody who's gone to Iowa State University, you probably have a strong sense of empathy with the students and with bicyclists in this community. Biking is a big deal in Ames.
Yeah, it is, and I think you see that in any college town. Parking is always limited, it's always a premium, so your other options are walk, bike, or take the bus.
And so in an effort to make Ames a more bike-friendly community, I know you're always looking at different ways to improve biking transportation, biking routes, biking safety. 6th Street improvements were one of the most recent things.
Right, the 6th Street used to be a 4-lane street. At one point I thought that was going to be the type of street, and what we noticed is we didn't need it for vehicle traffic. So we did what they call a road diet, which means you take a 4-lane, put a center 2-way left turn lane, or suicide lane, try to not call it a suicide lane, and then you put bike lanes in the extra space, and then that gives a spot on the street for bicyclists to be. And
another thing that people might notice in Ames is I learned from you is called sharrows.
Right. A sharrow, or the actual real term, the official term of it, is a shared lane marking. What it is it's a bicycle symbol, and then over top of it there's 2 chevrons, kind of look like a sergeant's patch, that type of symbol. The reason for that is if you don't have a space for a bike lane, you can put that sharrow in the traveled lane, in the normal vehicle lane. And what that does on streets that are maybe lower speed, lower volume, tells motorists that they could expect a bicycle to be there.
So the most recent improvement, and I think the one that people are really excited to see, have been the bicycle pavement markings that we see at various intersections. Talk about those for a minute.
Right. The bicycle detector markings, so what happened was, almost maybe by happenstance, is that we got a new vehicle detection technology. It was a radar based, and what we found in working with the vendor, when we replace our signals, we need to replace the vehicle detection anyways, but we don't like cutting into the street, which is what the traditional style was. So this new technology, this radar-based vehicle detection, allows us to not cut into a brand new street sometimes, or not to break up the street, but it also added the ability to pick up bicycles. And so after all that occurred, we said, well, this would be a great improvement for bicyclists, but what we found is that cyclists didn't know that the signals could detect them. So they were still getting off their bikes or walking over to the ped button to turn to cycle the signal. So we started painting the bicycle detector marking at the stop bars to let cyclists know that the signals can pick them up, and then they don't have to dismount and go push the ped button.
Now, in the past you mentioned, so an older intersection that has not been changed out with this new technology, they have pavement cuttings. And I know as a driver, you sit there and think, where am I? Am I hitting the right triangle or diamond
Right,
in the
right.
pavement to trip that signal. This new technology seems much more effective.
Yeah, the thing with old or traditional style, where it was kind of a hexagon shaped, it was an actual physical wire in the ground, where the radar just creates a zone. So it's a virtual zone that we start at the stop bar, fills the full lane. So it's got much better coverage, much better accuracy. And unlike maybe those loops, is that you can create a long area too. So we get better coverage, and then it's not affected so badly by elements like temperature change or other weather conditions.
Now, you mentioned there was other technology available. I know some cities have gone with a video camera to detect
Right.
vehicles. What are some of the issues with that?
Well, video detection is popular for the same reasons radar is, that you don't need to cut into the street. It doesn't damage the street. But the problem is maybe if we were not in the north part, if we were in the southern part of the states, that we get snow, we get rain, we get a lot of inclement weather, and video, even fog, can mess video up. So it's very sensitive to weather conditions. And we found through our trials with video that there was oftentimes during the year it just didn't work. And so people would get frustrated because the lights weren't changing and they didn't know why. It was because, in essence, they weren't being detected properly.
So we have these radar controlled traffic signals. They're at various intersections in Ames, not all the intersections. How many intersections do we have them at?
I believe our current count is around 15 intersections. What we have been doing is our annual program to replace signals. It's kind of our new standard. Any new replaced signal will have radar-based detection in it. So that's why we're up to about 15. To date, we haven't decided, because of money, costs, budget-wise, to retrofit any intersections. But right now, they're with the regular replacement. So if you look at it, when we were looking at our cost, radar is about $20,000 per intersection. But those loops that we were talking about, the wire in pavement loops, are around $1,000 to $1,200 a piece. So when you look at across an intersection, it's pretty much a cost neutral change, and we get all the other benefits from it.
So in time, you said this is the new standard. It'll take a while, but all traffic signals will eventually then have the radar.
Right. We have around 68 total signalized intersections in Ames, like full, not counting the signalized ped crossings. So an actual for controlling of an intersection. So it will take a little bit of time, but I think one of the things that we're going to start talking this fall when we go into the CIP process is there enough interest from the public to have this bicycle detection, to have this different type of function, that we would start maybe retrofitting.
Wow, so the really exciting things, really making Ames more bike friendly. Are there other projects on the horizon that are maybe specifically dealing with bikes or traffic in general that you want to share?
Well, it's all kind of part of how we're laying out corridors in Ames. When you look at, if you're a cyclist, you maybe don't care about exactly one segment of street. You care about, how do I get from point A to point B? And this is just a good way of trying to fill in those blanks. So the other things that we're doing is more on-street facilities where we can put those, maybe more sharrows, trying to make the crossing points at major streets safer by pavement markings or other types of awareness tools, and then just maybe extensions of shared use path or other types of trail connections. So it's a broad regional look at our trail system, both on street and off street, and how all those connections are made.
So do you find that the commuter bicyclist has different needs than, say, the recreational bicyclist?
Oh, absolutely. When you look at recreational, they maybe want to travel 10 to 15 miles an hour tops. If they have children, that might be more down to 8 miles an hour, especially if they're just learning to cycle. Whereas a commuter, or somebody who is maybe getting ready for RAGBRAI, can easily go 20, 25 miles an hour. So it's very difficult for them to integrate on a trail or a sidewalk, and they really need, or they want to be on the street. And at 25, 30 miles an hour, they're operating as fast as the car is. So.
Yeah, again, we just need to be aware of them and share the road.
Right, absolutely. I think the best thing to take from it that we hope not only for bikers to have an awareness, but so motorists do. So they're looking out for the cyclist, especially when they're making turns at intersections, to make sure that you're clear to make that turn and there isn't a bike coming through. So
It's interesting. We've gotten a lot of feedback on the pavement markers, both from vehicles who are happy to know that it's a reminder to them that bicyclists are in the area, but also from bicyclists who are excited that this technology is available.
right, I think we're kind of seeing some buzz around it, and I think that we want to be known as a walkable community, a bikeable community, especially being, like we talked about earlier, a university town. I really think that's something that we really want to be known for, is being bike friendly.
Well, Damien, thanks for coming on and sharing.
You bet.
So if you'd like to learn more information about City of Ames bike trails, you can go on our website under cityofames.org and look under GIS. There's a lot of mapping opportunities there to look at, as well as the shared use path maps, which shows all the bike paths in the City of Ames. Also remember, although school has started, the Furman Aquatic Center remains open for the next couple of weeks. It will stay open through Labor Day. You can get the latest on those hours at our website as well. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for This Week in Ames.